G'day everyone, I'm Smokescreen and welcome back to another video and welcome back to the Nations Cup Stage 2 for the official season for 2022, and we can see we're straight into the action here driving the Radical SR3 at Maggiore. We fly off the line going straight past Wheelstand, who fails to get a good start, so we're currently in 11th, just heading into turn 1 very, very carefully. We're on very slippery sports hard and cold tyres at the moment, running to the back of Monarch Lewis, and we just have to get out of the throttle there because Greatness was right around the outside and he was about 2 seconds off getting pushed off the track by me, but we're down into 12th as it stands currently. But this race today, easy no stop on the sports hard tyres, so we just have to make sure to keep this car under control for 10 laps. We have some interesting dynamics going on. Remember last time we were out in the Radicals at Fuji as we head down the inside of GTP Greatness at turn 5. Do we get this move completed? Stopped on the apex, nice and careful on the throttle. That's us up into 11th, not too bad at all. But yes, remember last time out at Fuji driving these cars where the H-pattern shifter was OP. Well, they've banned the shifter, but there's still some shifting shenanigans going on because we have this weird little phenomenon we've got going on here today where you do double shifts. We'll explore them a bit more deeply, but essentially, yes, you jump up 2 gears for some points on the track. It gets a little bit out of shape heading out of the S's there, but yeah, we'll dive in deep with the double shifting technique because it works in some points of the track. Bit of a gaggle of cars heading up towards turn 13, the big banky boy. We get it stopped there on the inside and a few cars on the outside there, a little bit of nose to tail contact on the left there, but we're up behind John Tita. We're going to try and prioritise getting a good run through the S's, see if we can get any definition of a move done up at the top of the hill at turn 14. But yeah, I think we had to come out of the throttle there. I didn't want to understeer straight out off the track. That obviously would not be any good at all. But this opening lap's been okay. We've gained a couple of spots. We qualified in 12th. We didn't have the best qualifying session there, actually, as John Tita gets a bit out of shape there, all over the curb, and we just run into the back of him rather frustratingly instead of actually capitalising on that particular little moment there. We were just not quite able to run into the back of him. We get a flash of the hazards there, not quite sure whether he thought I did that on purpose or not, but yeah, I would have definitely gone past him if I was in a position to be able to, but that's alright. We're still on the main pack, or I guess, yeah, the main pack, the middle pack here, this 6th position, heading the field currently, driving that golden car at the moment, shining in the sun. But yeah, as it stands now, we've just got to make sure we get through all of these corners gently. This car's actually quite difficult to control. So slippery on these sports hard tyres, oversteering, and then you've got really weird turbo progression in this car as well. It seems to like slowly rush on and start oversteering when you're not really expecting it. But let's have a look heading into turn 5. John runs a little bit wide here. Is this going to give us an opportunity for a move on the exit as the car just steps out sideways, heading up the hill towards the S's? It's really not the best place to actually go for a move here, but nonetheless, we weren't even alongside. So we are just going to drop in behind him for now, and as we head through this right-hander cutting, then this left-hander, do a double shift from 4th up to 6th there, and that gets us out onto the back straight nicely. We get into the power band and we don't have to do any further gear shifts as we head on the main straight, which is exactly why we do the double shifts in the first place. But if you have a look here on the exit, I think Tez gets a bit of a tank slapper on. So he was the shiny golden car. He gets a very poor exit out of Big Banky Boy, which is actually turn 11. I think I called it turn 13 before I run into the back of him here. It was a little bit frustrating that I wasn't able to get past as Conzio just understeers straight off the track. Tez tries to avoid and ends up with oversteer 2. We look up the inside for turn 14, but Tez sweeps around the outside, gets it stopped beautifully. Really no way that I was going to be able to get past there. So a little bit frustrating. I got sort of hemmed in behind Tez there, but he qualified ahead of me, so I would probably assume at this stage that he's probably going to be faster in the long run, as there's a car looking down the inside. That's Wheelstand is caught back up after having a particularly horrid start himself. But yeah, he was looking down the inside of the final turn. Really not the best place to go for it, as him and Greatness go side by side behind me. Hopefully that promotes a little bit of a battle, and perhaps I should have actually given the slipstream to Greatness to help promote some more side by side action by the pair behind heading into turn 1. But that's going to be that for now. The gap behind opened up a little bit as we head up towards turn 5. John's run wide again. I'm not quite sure whether he's just not quite got that corner down correctly or whether he's just made 2 mistakes on the consecutive laps there. But yeah, he's run quite wide there, out onto the curbing. Not sure whether that gives him dirty tyres. We do appear to be gaining through the S's here. We gain quite a bit of time through that right-hand portion and plenty out through the left here, although John actually carries the better speed. But we have the slipstream. We've done our weird little double shift up into 6th, so that's going to be really good for our campaign to try and get down the inside. We're going to be in the slipstream, less than 2 tenths behind, which is pretty close and pretty much prime distance with the slipstream strength we have in this game. Straight down the inside and a textbook overtake down to 3rd gear. I thought we were going to go down to 2nd to try and get the car stopped. But yeah, we set it down the inside. We probably ran in a tiny bit too hot, and it gives us a bad run. But up the hill, we just have the inside for turn 12, and that means that John is not actually able to get past as it stands. So now we just have to take it nice and gentle through this top section. I used to call this the hook section, but we'll just call it the section at the top of the hill. Pretty much sector 4, I think. Yeah, I think it's sector 4. But yeah, we just have to get through here smoothly, gently, calmly. That's the best way to drive this car, because as soon as you start to really wring the neck of the car, the tyres are just going to let go and you're just going to slide all over the shop. But we got a pretty good run through there. That gap behind's opened up to 7 tenths of a second, so that is no further worries in terms of John behind for now. And the gap ahead to Tez has opened up to about 9 tenths of a second. So a few air gaps ahead and behind. No one's close enough to actually complete some moves, and unfortunately for that race, that's all I could manage. It's got to be 8th. Still stuck behind. It's actually Oa Yogurt. Tez overtook Oa Yogurt, but that fight was not intense enough such that I could capitalise too, and we ended up finishing a couple of seconds ahead of Wheel Stand there. Really not the result we're after. I guess actually we did go up a couple of spots, so I guess it could be worse, but that really stemmed from a poor qualifying session. We did bring home 245 points, which isn't an absolute disaster, but I think if maybe I was able to keep with Tez and follow him up the field and snag a 6th, that would be a lot more satisfactory to grab the 274 that Tez was able to get. But anyway, I decided that wasn't enough. Of course it's not enough. We've got to go again. We're going to have to go and grab more points, which I feel as though I can these days. I've honestly forgotten the number already. Was it 245? I think that's what it was. I feel as though there was more on the table, particularly because I got a poor qualifying session. So we're going to go out for this qualifying session and hopefully go a little bit better. And as I normally do here, we exit the pits for the qualifying session. I didn't show you the previous one because it was just a terrible lap. This lap is going to be much faster. But yeah, as we normally do, I go out with the pack and then cancel back to the pits and go out for a second time. And what that does is it puts me on clear track, because Slipstream is off for qualifying. You get literally 0 benefit from being behind another car, so why would you even give yourself the visual distraction? This is the end of our first flying lap here, heading towards turn 17. Out through the final turn. We're about halfway through the session now. We're going to get another couple of laps in, and we're going to finally see in depth as to why this... That's better. Why this double shifting phenomenon tends to occur. A lot better in terms of lap time there, 15.2. The current fastest lap is a 14.5, so less than a second away, which is always pretty much what I'm looking for. But as we head through this opening sector here, just nice and gentle, slight graze of the brakes to get the nose to bite in and get the car to turn in better. And then this is a really important corner on the power before the apex, out on the exit, and then watch what I do here from 3rd gear to 5th gear, double shift. So the gears are so short and there's so much turbo lag in this car that actually skipping a gear is faster than riding out the gear and dealing with the extra gear change plus the turbo lag. If you can get 2 gears done within 1 gear shift period, you end up gaining time overall, and it was to the tune of a couple of tenths. It's only worth doing on a couple of spots on the track, and another one's coming right up here through the S's, because you've got to head out into this long back straight. It's a double shift there as you head through that left-hander, and it does a couple of things. What it does, it of course means you have to do 1 less gear change on the straight, which is where you're going to lose the most time if you have to perform one. It also just slows down the car enough, just dulls down the torque that the engine is producing just enough such that you can actually keep the throttle flat through that left-hander. So it's sort of doubly good for the straight line speed advantage. But coming up through the top of the hill now, it's been a fairly good lap so far. We've got a sector split coming up, and we are 2/10 up on our 2:15.2, so we're honestly on track for almost a 2:14, and I believe it's definitely possible. So let's see if we can get a good couple of corners here, nice and gentle through here on the power, early upshift to 4th, because you want to avoid a gear change on the exit of the corner, and then heading down towards the final turn, nice and gentle. It's so important to be gentle in this corner, because you can, honestly, you just can sail straight wide as you're heading also downhill through there, but we get that fairly okay. And we're going to see as we run up towards the line, and we'll check out the qualifying time of a 2:15.0, so it's actually a fairly decent time, to be fairly honest. And see, it's provisionally 4th on the grid. This is our next flying lap in which we cut the right-hander a little bit too much, and you can see we get ourselves a half-second penalty, which we're going to have to serve on the penalty serving zone, but unfortunately we got that penalty so late that we weren't able to serve it on the same lap, so we carried into the next one, but it doesn't really matter because we end up spinning out straight away. So that's going to be the end of our qualifying campaign, a 2:15.0, provisionally 4th. We'll see where that puts us on the grid shortly, because there are people still yet to finish their qualifying sessions, but we'll only find out after the Nations Cup introduction. Lovely as always, and we meet ourselves on the grid, and you can see we ended up staying in 4th, so pretty good qualifying session there, right on the back of a couple of serious operators here. But let's see if we can translate this into a good start at the end of the first lap. We get a better start than Atom there, but I think it's just like gear changes, exact timing of gear changes gave us some pace differences there, but he has the inside for turn 1, which is the important factor, and he's able to keep his third. There's not too much I can do, and I knew also that Atom was fairly pacey around this combination. Seems to be making a nice comeback for stage 2, which is nice to see after a decidedly difficult stage 1. But yeah, good to see him back up the front where he so deservedly belongs. But coming off the start there, been okay. We're still in 4th. We do have Metal Gear behind, which is a little bit of a terrifying prospect, because he could basically just go for a move anytime he wishes, but we're not going to hold him up because traditionally he's quite a bit faster. He normally jumps into these Nation Cups with quite little practice, which is probably why I out-qualified him. But yeah, I definitely believe that he will find pace as the race goes on, and when it comes up to the point where he's going to get that overtake done, I'm not going to make it terribly difficult for him. Atom gets a little bit of a poor run out onto the straight here, but like I said before, and given that it's the early stage of the race, there's no point engaging in a massive battle, especially because honestly the lead is just 1 second up the road. So with a little bit of working together, hopefully I can stick with Atom and perhaps contend for second or even first. So that's the long game. He goes a little bit defensive there, but I think that was just to get clean air over the car, and it kind of messes him up a bit. He gives him a wide exit and he gets 2 wheels on the gravel, which isn't that good, and I'm not going to hang behind him there because I will just lose time as well. I'm better off going past at this particular point, and then when Atom gathers himself back up, he can go back through. I can shepherd him back through and he can retake that position. But as for me now, I just have to keep it cool, calm and collected, because like I said before, that is the way to drive this car. You just have to keep it so calm, so cool, because as soon as you start to throw the car around, the tyres just don't have the grip. But at the end of this first lap here, it's not been a terrible start. We're still 1 second off the lead, but that was about the same gap as we had about halfway through the lap. So going through the second half of the lap, we've not lost too much time. Atom 2 tenths behind. We don't get the best final turn, and he gets a little bit of a run on me. Whack on the left indicator to let him know that he can go down the inside if he decides to, because I know that overall on pace, he's just got to be faster. The only reason he ended up behind me is because he made a slight uncharacteristic error. Metal Gear right up my backside there. I think I even received a little bit of a tap there, so he's definitely looking racy and finding pace as we head into this second lap. So we just have to make sure we don't get caught up too get caught up too hard in a battle with him. But it's not going to matter as we run wide out of turn 4. And guess what that does? That gives you dirty tyres. So coming into turn 5, which is already sketchy at the best of times, I believe we're going to have dirty tyres here, and we do as we just sail in deep to the corner, completely miss the apex. Metal Gear heads up the inside. We get oversteer on the exit, which gives Greatness a bit of a look in on the exit as well, heading up the hill towards the S's, and he goes to the outside, which is not really where you want to go if you're going to try and get a move done. But that being said, you perhaps may not always want to get a move done at the S's. You're probably better off just waiting for the straight and the slipstream. But I think the dirty tyres have just about cleared at this point as we head out onto the back straight in the slipstream of Metal Gear. Only about 6/10 behind though, although Greatness is a lot closer. Look at that, he's pretty much right under the rear wing. That's about as close as you can get without actually being alongside, but he's going to look down the inside. He brakes just fractionally later and he gets it done and stopped, and we just end up going a little bit wide, but that's a lovely clean overtake by Greatness there. But it's slightly frustrating at this point in the race because at this stage I'm here thinking if I didn't make my silly mistake, I'd probably just be ahead of Greatness. I wouldn't be sort of stuck behind him. Ideally, I wanted to stay on the back of Atom. I give him a bump there. There's no way I can try and get past, and that just means Monarch Lewis and Rain GT is going to have... they're going to get a little bit of a look in as well. But it's a slightly frustrating turn of events here because had I just not made my mistake at the start of the race, I probably would not be back here. I'd probably still be in 4th, or maybe even 3rd, or just fighting Atom at least as Greatness runs wide. This is something I was wary of. This is something I'm always wary of, actually, is if I'm engaging in a battle with a driver, especially in the earlier stages of the race, I'm basically trying to decipher in which configuration that the two of us have to be in order to work together and gain the most time. And part of that is seeing which one of us is making the most mistakes and trying to keep them behind and try and make them work with me, because I don't want the driver making the mistakes to be ahead. So obviously that's a bit frustrating. So I was a little bit wary of Greatness at this point. He's always good to race with, but just in terms of this race, although it's our turn to make a mistake, I think we were a little bit oh dear, the horn. The horn has thrown me off there. We were probably a little bit more careful through turn 4, given what happened last time, running wide out of there on the previous lap. So we just took that a little bit more carefully. We've just dropped off the back of Greatness at this stage, but I do have to be careful not to drop right off the back of him. I just have to be careful to the point where I'm just staying with Greatness, but I don't want to push the limit such that I end up getting dirty tyres, or worse, a penalty. We're getting a pretty good run through the S's though. I'm not quite sure if Greatness messed up a gear change or just couldn't quite keep the throttle flat through that very difficult left-hander that's pretty difficult to get flat at the best of times and even harder in the race. We're going to have slipstream heading in towards turn 11. I don't think we're going to be quite close enough, and that is the case. Let's see if we get that stop beautifully on the apex. We do. We get a really good run out of the corner here, and we're almost going to look side by side up the back straight here, or through these S's section. We're going to head straight past Greatness, who gets a pretty poor turn 11, and that is us up into 5th. So now we're just going to be head down, eyes forward, and see if we can catch Metal Gear, which is honestly not something I ever figured I'd end up saying. But look at us as we sit here, 1.3 seconds off the back of Metal Gear, who's at the best of times one of the fastest drivers in the region, probably even in the world, to be completely honest. He's a very quick driver on his day. But let's see if we can get a really good final turn, because it's going to be really important to not just lose this position immediately to Greatness. We have made a mistake just grazing the grass on the exit. The car just steps out sideways to the right-hand side, and look at that. Greatness is now going to get an overlap down the inside of turn 1. A little bit frustrating, but I think I had that one coming because, yeah, that was my mistake, running wide out of the final turn. So as it stands now, I'm not really picking out which one of us is making the least amount of mistakes, and therefore which one of us should be the car ahead if we're going to try and work together and catch Metal Gear. Because as soon as Greatness gets ahead, he makes a mistake, and then as I'm looking at it now, as soon as I get ahead, I make a mistake as well. Let's see, we get a little bit of a better turn 4 that time, just finding our confidence with that corner again. And it's really important that we actually find that confidence, because it leads out onto a straight into an overtaking opportunity, which I don't want to be susceptible down into. Maybe taking a little bit too much apex through there, and Greatness gets a much better run. He gets the run. He's going to look around the outside, which translates to the inside for the S's. Not really the place where he should do it, as I accidentally hang it around the outside, to be honest. I was prepared to let him go, but I think we both took it pretty conservatively to try and give each other space. So I think that one was just a result of truly respectful driving. And while we're sitting here battling, that gap to Metal Gear has opened up to 2.2 seconds. Bump draft me, bro. Oh my god. So I was getting a little bit frustrated at this stage, because I felt as though if I was just left to my own devices, I could catch Metal Gear. But I'm just engaging in a battle with Greatness. I guess given we're on lap 4, he heads up the inside. Oh man, that's a moment. Almost spinning out. So he sends it up the inside, gets a very poor exit, and I don't run into the back of him. I try to avoid him and nearly oversteer and crash out of the race. So just losing quite a bit of time to Metal Gear at this stage, as the car gets a little bit loose, walking all over the road, heading through these grip limited corners up towards the top of the circuit. But yeah, I think Metal Gear is a little bit out of reach as we're heading towards the halfway stage of the race. And looking just so ominous behind as well is also Monarch Lewis, who's ready to pick up any pieces if this battle with Greatness ends up falling apart. But yes, I was growing a little bit frustrated, because I felt as though in the race at the time that I would be faster if I was ahead and Greatness bump drafted me. I don't think it's quite going to happen, as Greatness then goes ahead and makes another mistake out of the final turn. I think he went 4 wheels off, which perhaps could give him dirty tyres, so I just take the opportunity, send it straight down the inside. He hangs it round the outside, not quite sure if he would have been able to do that with dirty tyres there. And Monarch almost gets a look up the inside as well on the exit in that aqua-coloured Radical. So we're pretty much 2 seconds away from losing a further position and dropping down into 7th. Remember, we started 4th. So yeah, as you can see, I think what's been my downfall is my mistake, which is pretty similar to what Greatness just did, running a little bit wide out of turn 4. But yes, the mistake I made at the early stages of the race just put me off the back of that leading pack and put me back into Greatness and this battle that I found myself in now. So it's really just a testament to show that even the tiniest mistakes can completely change the complexion of a race. And that is why I'm quite tough on myself when it comes to driving accurately and driving mistake-free, because I know even a tiny mistake, just like running wide once, has completely put this race pretty much down the drain, because we're fighting for 6th now. I guess we're fighting for 5th. We find ourselves in 6th, and I think Greatness has just picked up the pace a little bit, which is nice to see. So I'm now not so much being held up by him as he runs wide through the final turn again. That's going to be his 3rd time making that mistake. So that's going to give him a poor run down this main straight. We're going to have the slipstream advantage. We're still going to be about 4/10 back, though, by the time we hit that braking zone. And look at that, we're not able to get down the inside there. And that was probably always going to be the case, because you never really want to send something from half a second back, because that's just contact waiting to happen. And I don't want to be that dive bomb rammer guy. I've already... I think I've already sort of given myself a bit of a name by having that R4M in the tag, but that's okay, because I know I'm not a rammer anyway. But anyway, I digress. Back to the action. Greatness gets a pretty good first sector, actually. Monarch Lewis is now closer to me than I am to Greatness, and you can see by the end of lap 6 now, we go on to lap 7. He just runs a little bit wide again. A little bit better than previous times, though, but we're a lot closer heading down into turn 1, so I'm not sure whether we could actually get a move down the inside this time and make a slight movement before the braking zone to see if I could distract him and make him look behind and make him miss his braking point. But he doesn't fall victim to such a dirty tactic. Not even a dirty tactic, just a crafty tactic. It was almost going to look like a side-by-side moment out of turn 2 there, but Greatness just got the power down. There's not too much I can do about that one, but it looked like he was picking up the pace a little bit. I mean, you can see that lap 6 there. Oh, it's sausage! Well, it's okay. I know I can catch him now. I was got to say that I was happy he started to pick up the pace because we set a 2:15.9, which honestly I believe we should be in the 15s all laps if we really want to be on the pace. But then I go ahead and make a silly mistake, so I did catch him with a pretty good lap 6, but I just clattered that sausage heading through turn 4, and that just meant I was off the back of greatness pretty much for the remainder of that lap and the next, because we're now heading on to lap 8, which is going to be the end of the third to last lap. So we're heading in towards the closing stages of the race, and once again we've caught back up to greatness, 2 tenths behind him, and let's see if he can get a nice clean final turn. He's made a mistake of running a little bit wide on a couple of occasions here. He's done it 3 or 4 times, but he doesn't do it that time. He probably gets a worse entry than me, but gets a much better exit, and he ends up extending that gap down the main straight. Not too much we can do about that one, but let's turn up the volume and focus on this lap as we try and get close enough to greatness to get this move done for 5th. Oh, no. Oh, what a stupid time to make that mistake. Oh, you absolute clown. Absolute bloody fool. Bit of a disappointing end to that lap there. It was looking so good, and then I decided to make the stupid mistake of running wide out of the final turn, just as greatness had been doing throughout the race, but I did it at the most crucial time, heading on to the last lap, and I'm absolutely kicking myself at that. I mean, you could hear the frustration in my voice then. It was just so frustrating because I knew that this entire battle with greatness was off the back of a mistake on my own behalf, and now I made a further one, which means I couldn't even overtake greatness. He ends up making a mistake on the final lap, so I probably would have had a chance, a pretty good chance at that position, if I had just stayed close to him, but I wasn't able to do that, and that run is going to be a little bit of a disappointing 6th position, dropping 2 spots after starting 4th. Oh, that's so frustrating. Oh, I'm stupid. And I was pretty filthy with myself, to be honest. Just, I'd done that corner fine most of the night, and then at one of the most crucial moments, the pressure just gets the better of me, and yeah, run a little bit wide, dirty tyres, lose crucial momentum, and then that entire final lap was just spent catching back up to him, instead of actually trying to work on an overtake. It's got to be 6th. Yeah. That's where I left it. I didn't do any further ones because the point haul we managed to get was 263, which at this stage I wasn't too confident whether I could actually improve on that in the next slot, because I wasn't sure he was going to show up again, or if people were even going to show up, and you know, it'd be quite frustrating if I went into the next slot and the win wasn't worth 263. So I decided to leave it there. Yeah, a little bit frustrating because I didn't drive perfectly. Like I mentioned before, I tend to beat myself up over tiny mistakes, because you saw how that race was just so heavily compromised by a couple of them, and leaving that race like that, just off the back of a tiny mistake, dropping 2 spots off the start as well, a little bit disappointing, but I felt as though 263 was actually a decent enough score to leave that combination there, and without getting too much into it, I couldn't justify really staying up too much later because of my work schedule. So that's where I left it, and that's where I'm going to leave this video. A little bit disappointing. I'm sorry I couldn't bring you a better video and a better mood towards the end, but it was honestly a pretty good race with greatness. I was just frustrated that I was back there because I shouldn't have been. I made my own mistake and put myself back there, which is the most frustrating part about it. But anyway, if you did enjoy, do hit that like button. If you do want to see some more, do subscribe. Leave a comment as well, as questions, comments, and constructive criticism, as always, very much appreciated. But that's at the end of this one today, and that means that is it from me. So once again, I do thank you very much for watching. See you later.